There's a new Halloween film out called Halloween Kills, and I really need to talk about it. There will be spoilers. Hey everyone, Stephen here, aka MrSteJ, with a review for the film Halloween Kills. And before we get into the meat of it, I think it's important to ask ourselves, just how did we get here? To date, there have been 12 films in the Halloween franchise, and there's another one coming called Halloween Ends. So the end of Halloween? Who knows, but that's a lot of Halloween films and a lot of checks for John Carpenter. The first Halloween film had a simple but brilliant premise. Michael Myers, a mental patient who murdered his sister when he was just 6 years old, goes back home to kill again. As the sequels went on, there was a need to flesh out the character and the story around Michael Myers. Suddenly he wasn't an unexplainable force of nature, but a brother and a supernatural being controlled by a secret cult. What? Overall, although the series does have its ups and downs, it's diminishing returns sequel after sequel when I go back to have a rewatch. So when the 2018 version of Halloween seemed to bring it back to basics, I was all in. This was a direct sequel to the original film, and Michael was no longer Laurie's brother or controlled by a secret cult. He was back to being what works best, a force of evil, a shape. For me, the film did a really good job of continuing the story 40 years after the original Halloween. It cleverly echoed a lot of the beats of the original movie, as well as making Michael Myers scary again, and it also had an amazing new John Carpenter score. That said, the film wasn't without its flaws, but it was a refreshing return to the series. I really like Jamie Lee Curtis's return as Laurie Strode, this time manic and almost Sarah Connor-like in it prep for Michael's return. I also like the newly introduced members of the Strode family, being Laurie's daughter Karen, played by Judy Greer, and granddaughter Allison, played by Andy Matchak. It was interesting seeing how this trauma affected these generations of that family. The whole film wrapped up quite nicely as Michael Myers was left to burn alive while the Strode family drove off to safety. Obviously we knew 2 sequels were on the way, so we knew Michael was going to escape, but it was a satisfying ending in my book, and it left me thinking, well, what's next? Where can he go from here? Well, that brings us to Halloween Kills. Again, as I mentioned at the start of the video, there will be spoilers as I go over the things I did like and the things I didn't like.
Turn back before it's too late.
Let's start with the plot. The film takes place directly after the 2018 film. In fact, it's still Halloween night. Unknowingly to the Strodes, Michael Myers has escaped yet again and continues to terrorise the people of Haddonfield, the, let's say, very familiar people of Haddonfield. And I guess that's what my first and main gripe with this film is. It's too busy trying to connect us to the original film with these returning characters and flashbacks that it manages to undo what made the 2018 film a success for me. It's not pushing this new story forward. In fact, it completely halts it. I mean, it's 20 minutes in before we get to see the Strode family again, because it takes that long reintroducing all of these characters who, let's face it, are gonna die anyway. And why bring all these characters back just to kill them off? That's a horror film trope I just hate, and it brought to mind A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, where at the start of the movie, Freddy kills off all the survivors from the previous movie. It just wrecks the previous movie for me. Like, if I go back to the original Halloween now, I'll just be looking at all the survivors going, don't worry, Michael will get you at some point. That said, I kind of get what they were going for. As well as blatant fan service, this film is about community and family. But before we get into that, let's talk about Michael Myers. So the best thing about this film, unsurprisingly, is Michael Myers. Each time he's on the screen, it's fantastic. He's as spine-chillingly awesome as the last film, even when faced with multiple victims. His mask is now partially burnt from the fire. It looks so damn cool. It'd make a really good costume for you, well, you know. As he escapes the burning house at the start and confronts some firefighters, it's edge of your seat stuff. They desperately try and hold him off with a fire hose and axes and a saw, but to no avail. It's really brutal. It's a great scene, although it does feel a bit video gamey as each firefighter comes at him one by one instead of all together. But whatever. But anyway, that's a cool scene. But then we go back to people. And that's the main problem here, really. Every time Michael Myers isn't on screen, it's not good. It reminds me of that Godzilla film from 2014. Every time Godzilla was on the screen, awesome, great stuff. But as soon as you cut to those horrible human beings in the second half of that movie, because the first half's got Bryan Cranston, it just falls apart. It's terrible. But like I mentioned before, this film is about community, the community of Haddonfield. and because of that, there's a lot of new characters being introduced and reintroduced to the story. We now even get a new father character for Cameron, who's Alison's boyfriend. He's played by Robert Longstreet, and I couldn't for the life of me shake that he looks like Johnny Vegas. But anyway, the community comes together when they learn of Michael Myers' escape and basically form a mob to try and track him down. This is where a lot of the film is filled with the cries of "Evil ends tonight," which just became an audible hashtag. Honestly, they could not stop saying it, and every character was doing it. And it just felt like a political slogan, and I expected to see it on hats and t-shirts handed out. It was that annoying. But yet they end up hunting down the wrong escaped mental patient, as you do, and he jumps out of a window rather than face the mob. For a brief moment, the mob seems to learn the errors of their ways.
Are we the baddies?
I didn't really mind this part of the film, but you can see how it's going to play out a mile off, because you see the escaped mental patient walking around when they're all talking about Michael Myers. So obviously that's going to come into play. And straight away, anyway, after that, the mob just goes, well, let's go and find Michael, and they go off again. It did bring to mind that scene in the original Halloween sequel where Dr. Loomis accidentally gets a kid wearing a Michael Myers mask killed who's just trick-or-treating. So there's a bit of kind of synergy of something going on there. Anyway, talking of Dr. Loomis, he's in this film too, obviously. He features in a flashback, and for a moment I thought they deep faked him in there, but no, it was all makeup. The only thing that broke the illusion for me is that Dr. Loomis sounded like Michael Caine for some reason. So yeah, there's a lot of nostalgia in this film. But how does it end? So we know we have these two forces that inevitably have to meet. We have the Haddonfield mob and Michael Myers. I was intrigued by how this was going to end, although it couldn't actually end until, you know, Halloween ends. But they could get creative with it, can't they? So Alison Cameron and his dad realise Michael has gone back to his own home. It's a massive revelation. Really? Is it a massive revelation? Michael Myers has gone home. Really? The police didn't even think about this? Nobody mentioned it in the movie? Do you think Michael Myers is going to go home? Ridiculous. Anyway, after Cameron and his dad are killed, obviously, it's left to Alison to battle Michael Myers. And it's a great scene, because Michael Myers is in it. Alison is great in the scene too, and you are rooting for it, but you are also thinking, why are you here? Go and get help. In the nick of time, a mum shows up and saves her, and pulls off Michael's mask. At this point, I was nearly shouting at the screen, please do not show us Michael's mask, please keep it secret, we do not need to see Michael's face, that's not a cool thing to do, but they kept it blurred, which is cool. I like that they did that. Karen then uses the mask to entice Michael to follow her into a trap. The mob are waiting, and they've got blood in their eyes. Oh, but they're going to wait until Michael picks up his mask and puts it on. Why? Anyway, they eventually beat him to the ground, and then Karen seals the deal by stabbing him and walks away. End the film, credits, we are done. No, we're not done. What? Back at the hospital, Laurie feels like it's a good time to start monologuing and starts talking about how Michael is transcending after each kill. She says he's becoming more impossible to kill, which doesn't really make any sense because it's only the original film and the previous film before this, and she hasn't really seen Michael being attacked that much. But whatever. This all serves as a chilling backdrop for when Michael Myers gets back up and kills everyone one by one, yeah, like a video game. Then, the dumbest thing happened that actually made me laugh out loud in the cinema. Laurie, still in monologue mode, says, if we don't kill him tonight, maybe we'll kill him tomorrow or next Halloween. I mean, for the whole film, you'd be saying evil ends tonight. What? Now it's like evil ends after Christmas, or evil ends after dinner, or evil ends after Valentine's Day. Make up your mind! The whole thing kind of redeems itself a little bit when Karen herself gets murdered by Michael Myers as she peers out of the top of his house. I was surprised when that happened, because without it, this film really wouldn't mean anything, because everybody else who was reintroduced pretty much died. And there's rumours that the next and last film in this trilogy, Halloween Ends, takes place months or even years after this film, so that death is the only thing that matters really, and is the only thing of interest to see how they have dealt with it. Laurie and her granddaughter have dealt with that in the future. Everyone else, I don't care. Anyway, that's Halloween Kills. I will say the music is great. John Carpenter has turned in another great score, but I will say it's definitely less impactful on me this time round. It doesn't feel as new or refreshed as it did in the 28 version of the movie, and maybe that's just an analogy for what this movie is compared to the other one. But you know, the music's great and I can't wait to listen to that now I've seen the film. So yeah, in conclusion, I was pretty disappointed with Halloween Kills. I loved pretty much every part of the film when Michael Myers was on screen, but the story around him just wasn't compelling enough. It was all just blatant fan service. In the end, I didn't care for that stuff at all, and I suppose that's just the main problem in a nutshell for this franchise. As much as I really enjoy checking in with the Halloween series, especially with the new films, it's really hard to progress that simple vision of the original film. Even John Carpenter himself tried to write out Michael Myers in the second film and tried to move on to something new and refreshing with Halloween 3. But you know, Michael Myers can't stay dead for long. Anyway, I'll end by scoring it 2 wrongly accused escaped mental patients out of 5.